It's just for a few weeks, Chloe. You've got the space, and we really don't have anywhere else to go. Brianna's voice cracked with just the right amount of vulnerability over the phone. I stood in the middle of my living room, staring at the calendar I had just flipped to June. The blue ink outlining my work schedule, yoga class, and a long postponed weekend hike suddenly felt irrelevant, like penciled-in peace about to be erased. I wanted to say no. I should have said no, but I didn't. Fine, I had muttered, voice flat. A few weeks. When their car pulled up 3 days later, an aging SUV stuffed to the brim with bags, boxes, toys, and something that looked suspiciously like a crock pot, I knew I had made a mistake. Jason stepped out first, sunglasses on despite the cloud cover, holding a massive Bluetooth speaker under one arm like it was the family Bible. Brianna emerged next in oversized sunglasses and leggings, waving her phone like a flag. Mia and Oliver tumbled out of the back seat, already screaming about who got to hold the iPad. They hadn't even stepped inside yet, and my blood pressure was up 5 points. The moment they entered the house, it stopped feeling like mine. Brianna took one look around and announced, "God, Chloe, this place is so minimal. Like, do you even live here?" She laughed as if she had cracked a joke. Jason immediately flopped onto my couch like it owed him rent money, and within minutes the sound of car engines revving from his racing game filled the living room. I offered to help bring things in. Mistake number 2. It turned into me unloading the SUV while Brianna supervised from the kitchen, asking if I had any almond milk for the kids and whether my guest towels were scratchy or soft. I had no answer, mostly because I was too stunned by how easily she had taken over the space like it was a stage and she had always been the lead. Later that night, I sat at the corner of the dining table, trying to finish up an invoice while balancing a cup of lukewarm tea on my knee. Mia had spilled syrup on the placemats, and now the whole table smelled like artificial strawberries. Oliver, meanwhile, was running in circles around the couch, screaming about a ghost named Kevin. Jason didn't look up once. He just kept yelling at his game. Brianna, curled up on the armchair, scrolling through her phone with one AirPod in and the other dangling like a broken wing. I exhaled slowly, wiped the sticky residue off my laptop cover with the corner of my hoodie, and stood up. My bedroom felt miles away. By the time I made it to the porch, the air had shifted. Cool night breeze brushed against my bare arms. It was quiet here. The kind of quiet I used to crave, and now missed like an old friend who didn't call anymore. I sat down on the steps, arms wrapped around my knees, and looked up at the sky. No stars tonight, just clouds smudged like fingerprints across a window. "This was a mistake," I whispered, my voice barely louder than the wind. And I knew I didn't just mean letting them stay. I meant agreeing once again to sacrifice my peace for their chaos. I hadn't touched my journal in over 2 years, not since that winter when things fell apart with Sam, and I learned the hard way that silence doesn't always mean safety. But tonight, after the last dish was washed, by me, the couch overtaken, by Jason, and the floor sticky with apple juice and goldfish crumbs, I pulled it out. The cover was dusty. The pages still smelled like old paper and faint lavender. I didn't write anything profound, just a date, a sentence, and then another, like testing the weight of words in my hand again. June 6th. They've moved in. Temporarily, they say, but my gut knows better, and my gut's been right before. Somewhere past midnight, when I thought everyone had finally gone to sleep, I slipped into the kitchen to refill my water bottle. The lights were off except for the faint glow from the hallway nightlight shaped like a giraffe. That's when I heard her. Barefoot, quiet, like a ghost with perfectly manicured toes, Brianna emerged from the shadows. She leaned against the fridge, arms crossed, voice a low hum, smooth as cream but sharp underneath. "Hey, I'll need you to watch the kids tomorrow morning while I run a few errands." "You work from home, right? So what's the big deal?" Jason's voice floated in from the living room like the bass line of a song I hated but couldn't stop hearing. I was crouched on the hallway floor trying to plug in my laptop charger while balancing a mug of coffee on one knee and muttering apologies into my headset. My client's voice crackled through Zoom, half confused, half annoyed, while Mia screamed about not getting the blue bowl and Oliver banged on the closet door like it owed him candy. It was a Thursday. I knew because the trash hadn't been taken out and the laundry basket had vanished under a pile of unfolded toddler clothes. My to-do list for work blinked accusingly at me from my second monitor, but all I could focus on was the sound of Brianna's fake laugh echoing from the kitchen. I muted myself for the third time in 5 minutes as Mia tugged on my sleeve. "Aunt Chloe, I peed a little. Can I use your tablet now?" I closed my eyes and exhaled through my teeth. "Sure, just use the bathroom first." "Already did," she chirped, already on the couch. The call ended with my client saying, "We'll reschedule next week, when it's quieter, maybe." I stared at the blank Zoom screen and chewed the inside of my cheek. In the background, Jason turned the volume up on some YouTube podcast. "People are too sensitive about remote work these days," he said casually. "I mean, it's not like she's doing heart surgery." I stood and walked into the kitchen, stepping over a trail of Cheerios. Brianna was on the phone, her back to the stove. The smell of burned toast lingered in the air. "Chloe," she said as she hung up, "can I borrow your credit card?" "Just for diapers. I'll Venmo you later." I hesitated. "Come on," she added with a half smile. "I'll pick up some creamer, too. The good kind you like." I handed it over. 3 hours later, she returned with 2 glossy white shopping bags. Not a diaper in sight. Jason popped his head in from the living room and said, "Nice bag, babe. That the new Michael Kors?" "On sale," Brianna said brightly, shooting me a wink. "Don't worry, I'll Venmo you tonight." That night, I didn't even bother asking. Instead, I texted Sophie. "I think I'm losing my mind." She called immediately. Her voice, calm, low, steady, felt like a rope tossed into deep water. "Start documenting everything," she said. "Seriously. Dates, times, receipts. You need to protect yourself." I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. "I feel like a stranger in my own home." "Because you are, and they know it. That's the whole point." After we hung up, I opened a fresh Google Drive folder and named it Hartley Evidence. Then I opened a blank spreadsheet and typed out the first entry. June 22nd. Missed client meeting due to watching Mia and Oliver. Brianna not present. Jason home, but refused to help. I locked my bedroom door that night. First time ever. The next day, I came downstairs to find Jason at the kitchen counter, tapping loudly on my laptop. "What are you doing?" I asked. He didn't look up. "Filling out unemployment forms. Gotta use your address, though. Ours is technically unstable." My stomach dropped. "You what?" "Relax," he said, flashing a grin. "It's just a formality. It's not like they check." I stood there for a long time, staring at the screen. My name, my address, listed as a household dependent. "I didn't agree to this," I said quietly. Jason shrugged. "You'll thank me later. I made it easier for both of us. More benefits." I left the room before I said something I'd regret. That night I added 3 more entries to the spreadsheet. I screenshotted the form before Jason could delete it, and I texted Sophie again. "You free tomorrow?" She responded instantly. "Let me talk to someone. I think I know a paralegal who can help confirm if what they're doing is illegal." "You're really keeping track of every little thing we use?" "That's Cold, Chloe. Brianna said it with that half laugh she used to disarm people, to make them second-guess themselves. Her arms were crossed, lips curled in theatrical disbelief, as if I'd just proposed charging her rent for breathing my air. I didn't flinch. I just pointed at the receipts on the table. Utility bills, grocery slips, and a highlighted spreadsheet showing who had bought what, and when. "I'm not keeping score," I said quietly. "I'm keeping track." Jason snorted from the doorway, his arms stained with barbecue sauce from leftover ribs he hadn't helped cook or clean. "You're punishing her for having kids. Is that it?" "Wow." Brianna clutched her chest, as if wounded by the truth she refused to admit. "We're family. We don't need itemized breakdowns of kindness. We don't need boundaries," I corrected her, eyes narrowing. "That's what you said a few weeks ago, and I believed you. That's on me." The kitchen smelled of sour milk and old takeout. Crumbs dotted the counter like snowflakes of defeat. My once calming gray walls now closed in on me, dimmed by smeared fingerprints and chaos. My home, my refuge, had become a battlefield. They still didn't get it. I had given them a lifeline. They were trying to turn it into a noose. I reached for the last envelope on the stack. It had arrived that morning, tucked beneath a grocery flyer. At first glance, it looked like a marketing mailer, until I saw my name. Chloe Reynolds, listed under secondary card holder. I hadn't applied for a credit card, and I sure as hell hadn't agreed to be tied to Brianna's. Jason reached for the envelope. Whoa, there's a mix-up somewhere." I didn't move, just stared at him. "You opened a card in my name?" Brianna tried to interject. "It was just for a Target run. We needed diapers, and they had a sale on gift cards." I raised an eyebrow. "Gift cards?" She faltered. Jason tried again. "You're overreacting. It's not like we're committing fraud." I didn't say a word. Silence, I was starting to learn, had power. Sophie had texted that morning. "Keep calm. Log everything. Don't tip them off too fast. Also, paralegal's in. She'll review everything on Monday." I opened the Notes app on my phone, added today's date, and typed, June 28th. Credit card opened in my name without consent. Received physical mail. Brianna confirmed in front of Jason. My fingers moved steadily, calmly. This wasn't revenge. This was record-keeping. That evening, I stood in the doorway of the living room, laptop under my arm. Jason muted the TV. Brianna looked up from her phone, already defensive. I held up the envelope. "Did you think I wouldn't notice a credit card statement addressed to me?" Brianna blinked. Jason tried to speak, but nothing coherent came out. Just words flung into the air like dull darts. Missed marks. Weak excuses. I sat down, opened my laptop, and let the silence thicken like fog. "Let's see what else you've been hiding." Funny how family suddenly forgets their manners when they think they're entitled to your space. I said it without raising my voice. No dramatics, just truth, dropped like a stone in still water. Brianna blinked, caught between her default performance of innocence and the dawning realization that something in me had shifted. Jason, predictably, rolled his eyes so hard I almost heard them rotate. I placed the stapled papers on the kitchen island. 4 pages, highlighted sections, titled clearly at the top, Shared Expenses. June and July. Brianna stared at the packet like it was written in Latin. "What is this?" "An accounting," I said evenly. "Utilities, groceries, internet, water, the stain you left on the guest mattress, and the 4 bags of groceries you said you'd pay me back for, rent included." Jason leaned back against the counter, arms folded across his chest. "What is this? A roommate contract?" "No," I replied. It's a wake-up call. Brianna laughed nervously. You're seriously tallying up every little thing? That's cold, Chloe. This is not how family treats each other. I nodded once. You're right. This isn't how family treats each other. That's why I'm stopping it. Before she could respond, the doorbell rang. Chloe's stomach tightened. The last person she expected, or wanted, to see that morning stood on the porch. Her mother, Linda. She was dressed in one of her tailored Sunday blouses, lipstick too pink, heels clicking across the threshold like a metronome of judgment. She stepped into the room without waiting to be invited. Chloe, she said, arms open like this was a family reunion and not a slow-burning civil war. Brianna told me there's been tension. Brianna stepped forward, lips trembling, eyes glossy. She's kicking us out, Mom. Linda's gaze sharpened as she turned to me. Is that true? I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I walked to the drawer near the fridge, pulled out a manila envelope, and placed it next to the expense sheet. It's not about kicking anyone out. It's about what's fair, what's sustainable, what's mine. Jason chuckled dryly. You sound like a landlord. Brianna gasped, clutching Linda's arm. She's making us pay rent, Mom. Can you believe that? Linda turned to me. Sweetheart, be reasonable. You've always had a hard time with generosity. You've got the space, no husband, no kids. Why are you being so cold-hearted? Something in me cracked, and not in the way they expected. I met her gaze, solid, unflinching. You taught me to be polite, but you never taught me to say no. You trained me to accommodate, not to protect. Well, guess what? I'm not 13 anymore, and I'm done being polite if it means being a doormat. The silence that followed was cavernous. Jason mumbled, "Damn," under his breath. Linda stepped back like she'd been slapped. Brianna's expression flickered from indignation to something else, something bordering on panic. I've given you 4 weeks, I said. You've ignored boundaries, taken advantage of my name, my address, and my credit. So here it is, simple and legal. You have until Saturday. Pay rent, or move out. I picked up my phone, tapped open my email app, and started typing. 2. Reynolds family list. Subject: backyard dinner. Saturday at 6 p.m. Dear family, there are some things I need to make clear. Please join me this Saturday in the backyard for a dinner gathering. This won't be a celebration. It will be a clarification. I hit send. As the message flew into cyberspace, Sophie's text buzzed onto my screen. Final confirmation. Jason's unemployment forms list false dependents, and the credit card fraud is prosecutable. We've got the timeline, receipts, and screenshots ready. I exhaled. Slowly. Deliberately. Clarity had never felt so powerful. They came for grilled ribs. They left choking on reality. The backyard smelled of smoke and rosemary, the air thick with chatter and the clatter of folding chairs being unfolded in the sun. Lemonade sweated in pitchers. Paper napkins fluttered like weak flags in the breeze. Cousins, neighbors, and second aunts laughed by the buffet table, refilling their plates with corn on the cob and brisket. To any outsider, it looked like a picture-perfect family gathering, but I knew better. I had curated this entire scene not for comfort, but for confrontation. Brianna flitted from table to table like a pageant host, all fake smiles and high-pitched enthusiasm. Jason hovered by the grill with tongs in hand, and a beer belly pushing against his Seahawks tee, flipping meat with performative confidence. He loved a stage, even if it was a greasy one. I stood quietly near the patio, watching. Sophie was seated near the back, giving me a nod. Her presence was steady, silent confirmation that what I was about to do was not petty. It was necessary. When the chatter lulled and plates began to empty, I stepped forward, holding a glass of lemonade. "Can I have your attention for just a minute?" I said, my voice even and clear. People turned, smiling, expecting something soft. Maybe a toast, a family memory. "I want to thank you all for coming. It means a lot," I began. "Before dessert, I have something important to share." Jason chuckled. "Is this about your famous peach cobbler?" Brianna giggled along. "Please say yes. We need a sweet ending." I didn't respond. I set my glass down and turned to the projector I had discreetly set up on a table. With one tap on my phone, the backyard wall lit up. A PDF appeared, zoomed in on the header. Bank of Evergreen Chloe Reynolds, secondary cardholder. There was a visible ripple in the crowd. I flipped to the next slide. Itemized charges. Designer retail. Online gaming credits. Gas for a vehicle I didn't drive. Another tap. A legal summary, highlighted. Unlawful misuse of identity. Unauthorized credit line establishment. Sophie stood quietly, arms crossed, beside the power strip. She was my lighthouse in all this fog. Jason's voice cut through the tension. "This is insane. You're airing this here? At a family BBQ?" I ignored him. The next slide was an audio file. Jason's voice played through a portable speaker. "She's too soft to kick us out. She doesn't even have a spine." Laughter followed. His. I scanned the crowd. No one was laughing now. I advanced to the final document. An email from our neighbor, Mrs. Dempsey. "Dear Ms. Reynolds, I wanted to let you know that since early June, there has been significant noise, unsupervised children, and household waste overflowing onto the shared fence. We are concerned." I let it hang there for a beat. Then I said slowly, "For those wondering, yes, I filed everything with the relevant agencies." Jason stood frozen, tongs in hand. Brianna's face had gone gray beneath her bronzer. She reached for Linda, who looked ready to faint. Linda didn't say a word. She just stared at the screen like it had turned into a mirror she couldn't escape. Then from the edge of the lawn, a voice rang out. "You've got some damn nerve." Everyone turned. Mr. Hartley. Jason's estranged father hadn't RSVP'd. I hadn't expected him to come. But he had. Dressed in a neatly pressed button-down, his silver hair gleaming in the sun. He walked slowly toward the center of the yard. "Son," he said, his voice grave, "if that's how you treat people who help you, you're no son of mine." Jason opened his mouth, but no sound came out. I turned to Brianna, who was trembling now. She stepped closer to me, eyes shining with a fury I'd seen only once before, when she was 13 and someone had dared call her average. "You've humiliated us," she whispered. "I'll never forgive you." I leaned in, voice calm. "Good, because I didn't do it for forgiveness. I did it for freedom." After all the noise, the quiet felt sacred. Morning light spilled into the kitchen, soft and unhurried. The counters were bare again. No half-empty juice boxes, no crusted cereal bowls or sticky toy dinosaurs. Just sunlight, the faint scent of lemon-scented cleaner, and the mellow hum of jazz from the speaker by the fridge. Coltrane, I think, or maybe Chet Baker. I didn't check. I didn't need to. I stood there barefoot, cradling a mug of coffee in one hand, a slice of leftover strawberry cake on a chipped porcelain plate in the other. It tasted better than I remembered. Maybe because there was no one screaming in the background this time. The dining table gleamed under its natural grain. No clutter, no bills that weren't mine, no manila folders hiding disappointments. Just a vase of wildflowers Sophie had brought me a week ago.
They were a little wilted now, but still lovely in their fading honesty. I walked from room to room, each step a small ceremony of reclamation. I took down the baby gate from the hallway, my hallway, folded up the extra bedding from the guest room, now just a quiet spare room again. I smoothed the bedspread in my own room and finally unlocked the door from the inside. My phone buzzed. I didn't rush to check it. When I finally did, I saw Brianna's name. The message was short. "You think you've won. You've just burned bridges. Congrats, martyr." I stared at it. Then at the blinking cursor in the reply box. I typed, "Number." I just stopped being the bridge everyone trampled across. And then I deleted it. No drama, no last word, just a tap, a block, and silence. A knock on the door broke the stillness. Sophie stood there with 2 coffees and a mischievous grin. "You alive?" "Barely," I smiled, stepping aside to let her in. "But the cake helps." She dropped her purse on the table and slid into a chair. "How does it feel?" "Like I can breathe again." We sat for a while, no rush to fill the silence. She reached into her bag and pulled out a folded brochure. "Portland Wine Country, next weekend. I'm thinking girl trip. No children, no chaos, just Pinot Noir and questionable decisions." I laughed. A real one, low and warm. "Sounds like the best kind of noise," she winked. That's what I thought. Later, after she left, I stepped onto the porch with a fresh cup. The street was still, just the occasional rustle of leaves and a distant lawnmower down the block. Across the street, Jason stood by his car, loading the last suitcase. He didn't look over. I didn't wave. When he drove off, the silence left behind felt different. Not empty. Open. I sat on the porch swing, pulling a blanket over my lap. Closed my eyes. The warmth of the coffee cup against my palms grounded me. The kind of quiet I used to fear now wrapped around me like armor. I didn't get revenge. I got my house, and myself, back. After years of being taken for granted, Chloe didn't reclaim her peace with shouts or revenge, but with facts, resolve, and silence that spoke louder than any apology. She turned her home from a battleground into a sanctuary, not by fighting louder, but by refusing to be stepped on again. Because justice isn't always about punishment. It's about choosing yourself, even when it's hard. Like the quiet after a storm, her strength wasn't in how she fought, but in how she refused to fold. No wall of entitlement stands forever when truth walks in with receipts.